You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Don't worry, Ronnie. We know you are. Okay, so I guess the first thing to address is no cam tonight. I just don't feel like having the camera and the lights on and all that. I'm not in the mood to deal with the heat and the bullshit. So you get camless Crimson tonight. And I figured I'd go with a throwback of John Wick defending Frieren while she reads Berserk, because there's nothing more based than that. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be getting into tonight. Obviously, anime stuff, but summer has finally kicked off. We're getting a lot of the new entries this week, so we're going to be going over some of that and talking about some of the new stuff. I unfortunately didn't get to everything that I had tried to watch, because there was a bit of a party going on at my house. And I went and was actually, engaged in some social activity today. So there's that. Some of the other stuff also didn't really air episodes. Like, I know Yaiba didn't air an episode, and Kaiju number 8 decided it wasn't going to show an actual episode. But that's beside the point. We'll talk about what we did get. Social activity, disgusting. Okay. Everyone needs a little bit of it every now and again. But I did read some manga this week. We will talk a little bit about some of the things that did wrap up over the last week, particularly the Apothecary Diaries, and how I called a couple of those things there. But we'll start, I guess, by talking about a little bit of manga here. So we'll start off the night with the read report, and this is the first entry that I have to talk about for the night. So this is genuinely nothing special. It is kind of a trashy manga that I picked up because I was bored and thought, hey, maybe this will give me a little bit of entertainment. Maybe this will be something that'll be halfway worth reading. And it is. Effectively, the premise is that our main character has the ability called Cave King or something, which makes him really fucking OP if he's underground, but his ability doesn't activate anywhere else. Kind of unfortunate. But he's super useless. His family doesn't care about him, so they decide to exile him to an isolated rock out in the middle of the ocean. And he decides he's going to survive there. And from at that point, it basically becomes that time I got reincarnated as a slime. He collects a bunch of monster people to rule over, and we go from there. Hello, Muffler Tape. How you doing? And Biggles Mets. Hello to you too. If you just want like a waifu simulator manga that is just a bunch of like bullshit happening, this is a good read. It's a time killer kind of read, if you ask me. And I don't know if I would recommend purchasing it. The other one, though, I actually do kind of enjoy for like very legitimate reasons. And you'll understand when I show you this. Very, very legitimate reason to enjoy this one. So this is Tamamori's Fantasies Never Stop. And the basic premise of this one is that our main character, I forget exactly how his name is pronounced, like Tsukida. Either way, he's like the one dude in the drama club, and he's surrounded by the shy girl with big tits, the Gyaru with big tits, and the straight-laced class president with big tits. And the class president is like trying to teach this guy how to act because they're in a drama club and they have a bunch of performances and stuff. And every time they get into like a situation or whatever, it always turns into her over imagining what this dude means and what his intentions are towards her. Fair warning, this one is 18 plus. So you will get a few good shots of the booba, to those of you who are into that sort of thing. And there are some very suggestive things that they cover, or that they depict in here. There's one thing where, like, there's one panel I think I shared to a Discord, and it was a picture of the main girl here, who you see on the cover, getting all hot and bothered over eating an actual banana. Like, the way she decides to eat the banana is the most suggestive thing you would possibly imagine. Yes, it is that bad. This is no romantic great. I'll give it that. But it's entertaining in and of itself. Definitely worth a read, if you ask me. It's a decent enough series on its own. But that basically concludes everything that I have, every notable thing that I have read about this week. Which really brings us to the list of things that I have watched this week. Let's go over here, share this tab instead, close that out. The name is Tamamori's Fantasies Never Stop. I would honestly give it a good like 7 out of 10. All right, let's move on into anime talk for tonight. So here we have everything that is basically left over from last season, which is really just Witch Watch, To Be Hero X, Yaiba, and Anne Shirley. And this is where they all were when we were last around to talk about them. So I guess we'll go through a little bit of recap and talk about some of this stuff. I will get to Apothecary Diaries, but it's not on here because it concluded this week. So we'll do a bit of a wrap up on that. And I do have a video coming on the Apothecary Diaries and why it should be a must watch on everyone's list. So let's start the week off with Witch Watch, since Yaiba did not air an episode this week. With Witch Watch, we do get we get our cat and dog getting along fairly well. Wolf is striking up a deal with Nemu, I believe her name was. For some reason, I'm blanking. I'm kind of tired today, man. Either way, Wolf strikes up a deal with Nemu so that she'll let him out of the cage every now and again so that he can keep his body in shape. We also actually find out that Wolf respects Moe simply because, well, might makes right in his world. So that's a whole thing. Which will be funny to see how that all plays out. I particularly like the fact that, like, as much as Wolf can be an asshole, he still has some level of, there is still some level of reasonability with him. But really the big entertaining part of this latest episode would be that Nico gets her kiss. She was expecting it to be on like the hand or something, but Moe just goes for it and kisses her on the cheek. It was a nice sort of like unwinding after the tensions of the last episode. Sorry. Got a little something caught in my throat today. Yes, the Nemu bits are always very fun. In this one in particular, like Wolf instantly recognizes her and she has to deal with that. It was a good episode. And I've been really enjoying this series, and I do think it holds up as a must watch even in this season. Moving on down the list, because the next item I have to talk about is Anne Shirley. And this is one that I'm actually considering dropping. I get some enjoyment out of it. Like there is some level. Oh man, sorry about that. There's some level of enjoyment I get out of this series, but I don't know if there's enough to justify me keeping this one around because I don't enjoy it that much. There are some good moments. Like this latest episode was actually a decent moment centered around this elderly lady who screwed her life up by pushing her fiance away, and they had their whole reunion much later in life and all that. The Gilf episode, yes. But there were a lot of themes to it that I enjoyed. But this series, I don't know, maybe it's one that's really just going to end up being a largely Japanese appeal. As time has gone on with this one, the novelty has worn off, and I'm kind of just sort of sitting here like I'm not really terribly entertained by the slice of life aspect of it, and the humor feels really, really outdated. Like the sense of humor is much, much different than what modern day, I guess, would be entertained by. So this one is on the chopping block right at the beginning of summer season. To Be Hero X. Honestly, I don't know if I really care about anything after Langley. Like when I look back on it, the part that has been keeping me watching really has been the Ling Lee stuff. And that was at the beginning of the story. Sure, it does look like a lot of this is going to tie together, but this series behaves as if it's schizophrenic. It will give you a couple of episodes focused on one thing, and then before you can fully resolve whatever is going on there, it skips on to the next thing and leaves you with a cliffhanger as to, oh no, what's going Sorry. Oh no. Oh, Jesus. Oh no, what's going to happen here? Finally did it without coughing. I have a hard time with this one because as it continues to deviate, I just find myself not really caring. Especially as now we are introduced to the newest character named Lolly. And she kind of feels like, just like Queen, like another sort of like rehashed female empowerment sort of shtick. Not that her in herself is like a terrible character idea. It's just one of those things where like her whole thing is I'm fed up of being called cute. So I'm going to try and prove everyone wrong and be a hero, even though everyone calls me cute. She is a little bit less sucky version of Riri Williams, honestly, if you ask me. You say it'll bring it all together in the end, but like I feel like I'm constantly getting blue-balled in every step of the way. That is the frustrating part about this. So while I don't hate it, the part that I genuinely liked that got me into this series was all the way at the beginning. And I'm not enjoying it as much anymore. It's getting to the point where it's like, oh, there's another episode of To Be Hero X out. I guess I'll watch it. I guess I'll keep up with it. That is how I felt about this one. Whereas in things like the Apothecary Diaries, they've either felt like they have been constantly progressing towards something, or all of the slice of life stuff in and of itself is fun, and you are consistently presented with the same characters. If this show had focused entirely on Ling Li, I think I would have liked it much, much more. But the other characters, for as cool as their powers can be, especially Queen's powers, and that fight scene was really good, I don't think you needed to give them their own focused arc. I felt like all of this stuff could have been B plots that are happening that get like parts of episodes and build towards these sorts of things as you're dealing with the Ling Li stuff. But I don't know. I don't like the way it's structured. Which is a common theme, apparently, with Chinese productions. Because one of the new ones that we're going to be talking about tonight, Lord of the Mysteries, has a similar problem. I don't like how it's structured. However, I do happen to know the reason for why this is, and the studio can't really be blamed. And there is some hope on the horizon for this one. So let's talk about Lord of Mysteries, or Lord of the Mysteries. I do not think this one is a must-watch yet. I think it has the potential to get up there, but I'm going to need to see what comes after episode 3, because Tencent put some ridiculous limitations on the studio making this in order to get to a certain point by episode 3. They were effectively imposing the 3-episode rule on the studio so that they could get to the clown fight that happened in this most recent episode. But we're 3 episodes in, and I still feel like I am having a terrible time following what is happening in this anime. The animation in the fights are cool. Like, they look good, and I feel like the studio has done a really good job at animating it. But it kind of feels like it got massively overhyped if this is what we're dealing with. Like, I can understand a lot of people not really caring for this because it doesn't do a good job of getting people on board with what's going on. Like a lot of these other anime, I genuinely can follow where we're going. A lot of these other stories, I genuinely know what's going on within the first 1 to 2 episodes. Like, I don't feel lost. This one consistently makes me feel like I'm lost. But since it's new, we'll go over it a little bit. And then I do have to loop back around to the Apothecary Diaries, because that is something I do need to touch on since it wrapped up. Effectively, the story is that Klein Moretti was studying an ancient diary that belonged to a family of fallen nobles. And now, for whatever reason, the original Klein Moretti and his friends who were familiar with the works ended up offing themselves, and Klein's body ends up possessed by a Chinese businessman who had a bad day and decided to try and perform a luck ritual. So now the new Klein has to sort of piece everything together and figure out what's going on based on the memories he has inherited and based on his knowledge from the previous world. It has the structure of a very good series. That's the problem with hype shows. I almost always get disappointed by them. Same with Chainsaw Man, Soul Leveling, and the beginning after the end. I feel like the beginning after the end was bigger than just its hype. I feel like there's a lot of things wrong with this. If Lord of the Mysteries had slowed its roll and been allowed to properly develop things, I feel like we probably would have been on a better track. Because I did watch the first episode twice, and I was able to figure out what exactly is going on. So, to finish this out, Klein joins a group of private investigators called the Nighthawks, who are being paid to find this missing journal. And along the way, they're realizing that other people are also after the journal. So they're going to have to fight people for it, and things are going to get dangerous real fast. The power system is cool. It presents some very interesting things, even though it isn't really fully clear how it works or what everything is supposed to, do. But it's a cool show. It's a cool concept. And I like it. I want it to be good, but its first 3 episodes have been terribly crammed. Now, the fortunate thing is the studio heads for this one have said that everything after episode 3 has much better pacing, which should help people get more involved in the story. Cool. Fuck Tencent for imposing that kind of limitation on them. So this is a clear case of, much like with the beginning after the end, where it's clearly the studio's fault that it got butchered. This one is a clear sense of Tencent being the fucking dicks in this one. I'm even a bit disappointed by Dandadan. It's just all right to me so far. There was one very good episode in season 1 with the Mother Ghost, but other than that, just all right. I guess it will come down to taste, really. And this particular reason is why I have really tried to lay off hyping things up. Because there are certain things that I really do love, and I don't want people to think that they are greater than what they are. And that's all that hyping things up will do. It's nice to say like, oh, well, this part of the story is really good every once in a while. But when all people do is go on and on and on about how great it's going to be, how it's going to be the best thing ever, how you have to watch it, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be great, you got to watch it, it's going to be the best thing ever. You're setting yourself up for disappointment if you listen to that. I do feel like Lord of the Mysteries suffers part of that. It was not as good as everyone hyped it up to be. But the other part of that is a production issue. It's a failure of the production. In contrast, I will say this. There wasn't a whole lot of hype that I saw around Takopi's Original Sin. But this is a fantastic anime. I was blown away by it. We'll get to that later. You're welcome to not like Dandadan. I personally really like it. And Muffler Tape, if you're here, I will say that my cousin has gotten onto the Dandadan train. Like, she is very much like an anime normie. But when I was talking, like, I had a bit of a party here in my place, so there was some social things going on. She was around, and I was talking to her, and she started asking me about anime and stuff. And then the topic of Dandadan came up. She said it's one of her new favorites. So it does genuinely come down to taste in some of these things. I think Dandadan is fantastic. And I couldn't be more happy with how the adaptation has gone this season and in the previous season. But Lord of the Mysteries does kind of suffer from that. And definitely the beginning after the end suffered from that and from the studio screwing everything off. But let's talk briefly, well, not briefly, let's talk in depth about the Apothecary Diaries being hands down one of the most amazingly written series that is out there. Now, I did mention that I called certain elements of it, like with the children and like with Shisui. Those were things that I kind of figured, hey, yeah, you know what? These are entirely possibilities considering what the series has done thus far and all the things that they have been setting up. But I feel like that's more to speak of the competence and the effectiveness with which this creator writes, because all of these things are very clearly like set up and foreshadowed all the way through, and it's still like it could or couldn't be a thing. Like it could, you still feel like it could go either way. Either way, the fact that the Apothecary Diaries can go through an entire 24 episodes and have every single one be related to the end goal of the season is spectacular. Without a doubt in my mind, I can say that the Apothecary Diaries does genuinely belong in a top slot on lists. It really genuinely is an amazing anime. It is well produced. It is incredibly written. The pacing is perfect. And everything about it has been handled fantastically. The only complaint I can make about it is that a couple of its fight scenes, and it's not an action anime, are not that great. And one of its intros kind of sucks. Everything else about it, though, is watertight. So if anyone's out there listening to this and you have not watched the Apothecary Diaries, I do genuinely think that you should give it a shot. It is an amazing anime. And I don't want to speak too much on spoilers because, well, that would ruin things for some people. So we'll just leave it to vague notions about the stories, about the story that's being told. Okay, let's move on down the list to Takopi's Original Sin. This one, if you ask me, this one is a must-watch for the season. It is, look, so the basic premise is that you have an alien come to Earth from Planet Happy, and his whole goal is to make people happy. Season 1 was great, but I still I still like season 1 more. I don't know how I feel about Shisui surviving. Also, the finale could have been a little more emotional impact. Yeah, I guess. I'm okay with Shisui surviving. I kind of figured it was going to be a thing. So, anyway, Takopi's Original Sin. So our alien squid dude, Taco, our alien squid dude, Takopi, is trying to save this girl, Shizuka, who is getting mercilessly bullied by one of her classmates. And now it has an extended pilot, but it's only going to end up being like a 6-episode anime, it seems like. Basically, Takopi goes through a bunch of all like these random measures and stuff to try and help Shizuka, and it ultimately results in some really dark, messed up stuff. Honestly, it is genuinely fucked, but it is an amazing show, honestly. Like, it can be hard to watch at times, especially with like how Marina treats Shizuka. So, yeah, it's a what the hell anime, and I mean, I can't say enough that it is fucked up. So if people don't want to watch it, then okay. But I don't think I would quite limit it to cry and depression porn yet. I feel like there might be a little bit of a different thing going on with this. And all in all, I do end up feeling like sitting there watching it, I end up feeling like, that's a thing, I guess. But yeah, I love this anime. I think it's great. We'll move on down the line to talk about Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter. Where are we? Okay. So, synopsis time. The basic premise of this one is that our main character is a student at like a high-ranking magic university or something, and he is like widely considered a genius, someone who like really knows what he's doing. So one of the four like main noble houses hires him on to teach one of their daughters how to use magic. And now she has a bunch of mana, but she cannot activate her spells. So he's kind of there to be like, all right, well, I don't have a whole lot of mana, but I can, I'm really proficient with magic, so I can use it. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to figure out your problem. We're going to find out why this won't work for you. That's pretty much it. It is a show centered around magic lollies, okay? I don't know if lolly is the correct term, but like these are young, like most of the characters are young girls, much younger than our main character, the teacher. And while I do think the characters are cute, I don't really find myself terribly endeared to any of them in a meaningful way. I don't think the magic is super amazing. The plot doesn't really hook me a ton. I feel like there is a lot of I feel like there's a lot of I don't know, a lot of mid in this show. And 2 episodes and he still hasn't cleared the problem. What is even going on? Well, we don't even have like an identification of what the problem is. It has basically been 2 episodes of fucking around to not find out. And all of a sudden, right at the end of the 2nd episode, she is now like casting a massive spell. So she's doing something. And I guess the solution that they're going to have is, oh, well, she was limiting herself. That's why she could never activate any spells. She didn't believe she could use magic. Therefore, she ended up being incapable of using magic, which I think is going to be some bullshit. But I digress. This one is very okay. I saw some people call it trash. I wouldn't go so far as that. There are small little things that I do enjoy about it, but this is definitely one that will be on the chopping block for its episode 3, because I don't know how I feel about watching this through. You know what's not on here? Hold on. I'll have to add one more here really quick, because I don't think I ever put it on the list. So let's go here. Okay, let's go here. Oh, right. I never added it. Watching, select score. I guess I'll give it a good. Watched 1 episode. Add. All right. We are good to go. Now I gotta do some other stuff. So yeah, insofar as Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter, there is quite a bit of improvement that they could do with it. But I don't think it's the worst thing out this season. Jazz. All right. This is always how the new season starts. I always forget 1 or 2 of these when I'm going through all of this. Go back here. Choose file. D. There we go. And there we go. Added. Finally. Okay, we can move on now. This is a hard okay for me if we're talking anime. Like I said, it's in danger of getting chopped by episode 3 because it doesn't really do much that is good. It has some like cute characters, it has some kawaii factor. But outside of that, like I don't care. The next one on the list, though. Oh, wait, no, that's not the next one on the list. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Okay, we're gonna go one more. Do I not have that in here either? I've discovered yet another one that I forgot to add into the list, and it's the next one on here, of course. Okay, so let's go here. Back to this. Yep. Okay. Let us quick add. I have to do a whole rigmarole to get this going. Sorry. My bad. Season 2. Add. Status. Watching. Select score. Okay. Refresh. Go to this. Save image as Reborn as a vending machine. All right, there we go. And now I can add this in. Sorry, I have to do this on the fly. I tried to do all of this ahead of time, but apparently I'm just not good enough. So, the next one on the list is Reborn as a vending machine. This one gets slotted into the interesting category. Now, look, I'm not one to really like hammer on weird isekai because it's kind of like a pet like infatuation of mine. But this one is one that I genuinely just can't get over the concept of it sometimes. Reborn as a vending machine, really? And I don't know if I have to do this, but for those of you who are unaware, this is basically the story of a dude who gets squashed by a vending machine on the highway, reborn as a vending machine inside a fantasy world, and basically gets carried around by a really, really buff chick who apparently has the fists of All Might. But this is one that is back for a season 2. So I watched all of season 1, and here we are for season 2. And one thing I will say is I'm genuinely surprised that the production for this series is as good as it actually is. That's one of the things where I'm sitting here like, for as dumb, for as absolutely stupid as this whole premise is, yeah, it's well produced, it's well handled, it gets more love than some other anime out there that probably deserve it better. It is utterly ridiculous, but it's not bad. I think my biggest thing is like all of these people are like infatuated with a fucking vending machine. And that's the part that is like a huge turnoff to me. I'm just like, oh god. It's same with like My Wife Has No Emotion. It's kind of like the parasocial relationship part of that really turned me off. And I feel the same about Reborn as a vending machine. It's like everyone's like super infatuated with this vending machine, and I'm just like, it's a vending machine. But to sort of start off the new season, let's talk about that episode. So, again, better production than a lot of anime out there that probably needed it. We get some really, really powerful old folks in this one as they are trying to take down the big bad guy from the end of the last season. And what we do sort of learn is that said big bad guy is now ripping a script out of Kenjaku's book from Jujutsu Kaisen, and is initiating a culling games inside of the dungeon. It's an interesting idea, but I'm really more so just here for the insanity of it all. That's the only thing that I am watching the series for. It is utterly insane. Batshit insane. Like totally lost every single one of its screws, but it's entertaining. And I guess sometimes that's all you can really hope for in a series. So Reborn as a Vending Machine slots in as our first interesting anime of the season. So Reborn as a Vending Machine. Let's go to Call of the Night. And now we talked about hype earlier and how it can really ruin your impression of a series. I feel like Call of the Night has suffered a bit from that. He's more useful than most of the adventurers, though, and has tons of delicious food and drink. I would also be infatuated. I already am. All right, well, you can go deal with that. So Call of the Night is by no means a bad show. Okay? I am not saying that it sucks. But I do feel like it did not live up to the hype that people were giving me for this. Like a lot of people said it was a really great show. And I'm sorry, but I don't think it quite lived up to everything that you had said. This one, to me, come on, is an interesting show. I know you have a Boxo Nendoroid, Biggles. I know you have that. I guess solid would be a good description of it. Like, it's by no means like terrible. There's a lot of good things going for it. And there are some moments actually where I was like, ooh, wait, that's really cool. I was particularly interested in the whole vampire hunter thing. Like, I thought she was a very interesting antagonist to this whole thing. But insofar as Koyamori goes, not really interested. I didn't think he was all that cool. A lot of the characters in this, I don't know. I'm not sold on. Yeah, the main character sucks. Like, I get the idea of what it's trying to push here, of like, being dissatisfied with your life and all that. But I'm not digging it. The visuals are actually pretty good. That is one thing that, thank you for reminding me of that. I will genuinely praise this show for. The visuals are good. I'm not super interested in its characters. I kind of will disagree on that point. I don't know. It's just, I find myself having a hard time really even caring about Ko. But I will continue watching it because I did enjoy it. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed going through it and catching up. So it's like a high 7, if you ask me. I would give it like a 7.8 or 7.9. It's kind of there to where it's marginally better than average, but I don't think quite lived up to the hype. I actually kind of like the OP for this season. I really do like the ending for season 1, though. Yofukashi no Ta is a really catchy outro. I genuinely love that song. So let's move on to the other one that I happened to forget. Detectives these days are crazy. I'm going to put it in the interesting category, but this is one that could, again, end up on the chopping block depending on how this goes. There are some funny parts of this, okay? And let's get into the breakdown so you understand what I'm talking about. So the premise of this one is that our main character is like was a high school detective who was really famous, but now he's old and he's washed up and he doesn't know how to get with the times. So this high school chick who happens to like be a huge fan of his shows up one day asking to be his apprentice. And I think one of the funniest gags in this was just she has infinite boob storage. So like she's constantly like pulling things out of her shirt, and like there's one scene where she takes an entire spear and just stuffs it down in between her tits, and it just disappears. So there are some like genuinely like comedic moments like that. But I don't know. I wasn't super entertained watching this one. Really, all that there is to it is just our main character being like a caricature of like old school detectives. The best part is our high school apprentice having infinite boob storage. That was really funny. Like just her personality in general may keep me around. But it might just be my overall mood for the day because I don't know. I guess I just haven't been feeling the greatest lately. So we'll see. I'm giving everything a couple of episodes before I drop it. I'm trying to at least give them a chance to like shine. Some shine more easily than others, though. It's a decent show. I'll give it that. It is decent. Something that is really good that I think I was not expecting to be as awesome as it was. Clevitas. Clevitas was really, really good. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, we'll start with the small ones. But first, let's talk a little bit about this show. Okay, I'm back. So with Clevitas, the premise is that humanity lives in basically like the center of the world. And they are surrounded on all sides by 4 incredibly powerful monsters known as the Kings of the Dark Beasts. One of which happens to be Clevitas, like a chimera lion sort of thing. So 13 heroes are dispatched by one of the humanoid kingdoms with special weapons, and they go and they attack Clevitas and they fail miserably, which causes him to turn his anger against the human realm, and he goes and he destroys an entire kingdom in one night. But in the process, ends up being entrusted with a human child. And from there, we basically have the story of Clevitas, this monster who doesn't understand humanity, basically like taking a level of intrigue with it and taking a level of intrigue in humanity and trying to figure out what they want to do in response to humanity's aggression. There are, so like insofar as world building goes, extended pilot yet again, they make a very good use of it. They do some needed world building. The characters are fleshed out enough to like be interesting. Clevitas himself is a very interesting main character. The premise in and of itself is carried very well. I really like the art style and the animation. It's all really good. Just like the entire concept of this fantasy world is amazing. Everything about this one, like I was blown away by. I don't think there was a single moment in this where I didn't feel like, wow, okay, this is a good anime. So this is going in the must-watch category. I'm really glad. I almost skipped this. I don't know who it was that said Clevitas was a good anime that I should watch. But if you're out there, I appreciate it. I do not regret checking this one out. We will continue on. So Clevitas to New Saga. Okay. So with New Saga, for now, it's going to go in the interesting category. Probably not above Call of the Night. With New Saga, basically the premise is, if you're familiar with some of my coverage in the past, you'll know I was not a huge fan of a Returner's Magic Should Be Special. I thought it kind of sucked, okay? But this feels like a better version of a Returner's Magic Should Be Special. Our main character defeats the big bad guy and is sent back in time to the events that lead up to the bad guy's rise to power. So now he has a chance to try and change history and save the people that he cares about. I like it so far. The animation, it's good. I won't say it's the best of the season, but it's good. The story, I guess I find compelling. You have a main character who's basically just lived through hell, and he is now reunited with all the people that he lost along the way. And his renewed motivation to try and save those people. I like this sort of story, the returner story, I guess you could call it. I like these sorts of things. It particularly appeals to me. Right now, I don't think it's the most amazing thing, but I do feel like it has a chance to actually prove itself to be pretty good, so long as it decides not to go with a terribly generic idea, with anything terribly generic. If it decides to try and play things in a unique way, it'll probably turn out pretty well. But right now, it's an interesting anime to me. Okay. So New Saga. Don't really know if I have anything to say about it. Like, it's basically just a better version of a Returner's Magic Should Be Special at this point. A more interesting version, I should say. All right, let's continue on. Yeah, I think New Saga does have the potential to sort of climb the ranks this season. Particularly, like I said, if it doesn't go the generic route, if it decides to actually try and do some original things to make its world feel unique and like build it up in a professional way, I feel like it probably could go places. All right, let's move on to Onmyo Kaiten. Put this one at the bottom of the interesting category for now. So with Onmyo Kaiten, the story is basically that our main character is a real-world delinquent who falls into a sort of fantasy world of like exorcists, I guess you could say. That's the best way to describe them. And his whole thing is that he just, I will not lose. He's very like stereotypical, like shonen sort of protagonist kind of thing. And it is generally a shonen sort of thing. You have basically a bunch of people operating spirit mechs, fighting Oni who like to invade their world. And it's overall a decent show. The animation isn't anything to die for. It gets a little bit more love and attention than a lot of series, I think. But they do use a lot of 3D assets to try and do the fights because some of the models and stuff are very, very complicated. But I think the big twist in this one is basically that at the very end of the first episode, we get another time loop this season. So effectively, our main character dies at the very end and finds himself waking up right where he started. Oh, he also has some weird spirit powers that allow him to transform into like a little like golem looking thing with a giant fist. It basically turns into All Might as he's losing the last little bits of One for All. This one seems like it could be decent. This one seems like I could get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But insofar as like it's like techno futuristic sort of Edo Japan aesthetic, I'm not really a huge fan of that. It feels a little suffocating. It's too much, honestly. If I had to be entirely like if I had to tell the truth, it just does feel like it's a little too much. I'll give it some time, but I guess it has my attention for now. That's a good thing. Okay, The Water Magician. The Water Magician goes in the okay slot. So effectively what we have here is I don't know, I guess you're like the beginning of your stereotypical meh isekai, where basically the main character gets killed off screen and he meets an angel who reincarnates him into a fantasy world, tells him all his attributes and stuff, like this is what you're good at and all that. Go ahead, have fun. Here's your slow life. And the first episode is basically a bunch of power leveling. Our main character only uses water magic. He can also use that to like, create hot baths and ice magic as well. And there are a couple of other things that like happen in here. He encounters a bunch of monsters and that he has to fight to survive. And basically we have our main dude just sort of like doing his things off in the woods, not really minding anything, making friends with a dragon and the fairy king and stereotypically isekai stuff. It's hardly the worst thing. Its animation, again, not horrible, probably could use a little bit more love, but it really isn't like the worst thing I've ever seen. Nothing to like really be impressed with. It's watchable in its own right, but I'm not really like super invested in it. And the vibe I get from it is overall pretty generic isekai sort of thing. This is the kind of thing that you would probably just tune in like, oh, hey, I'm bored, not doing anything. Why don't we pop on an episode of The Water Magician and just like sort of enjoy that. We'll go with that. So The Water Magician is just kind of an okay anime out of this season. Let's keep moving down the line. April showers bring May flowers. This season's shoujo of choice. I don't know if I'm really a huge fan of this one. So let's talk about this. The one like immediately like notable thing about this is they're actually doing like the so they're doing I kind of feel that, Marcel. I kind of feel that. Insofar as Water Mage goes, it is one of those shows where like if you're a fan of fantasy, you'll probably enjoy it. But it's by no means some amazing thing. Anyway, so April showers bring May flowers. So they're doing the hot guy develops this relationship with the ugly chick in class sort of trope. And now normally when they do this thing of, oh, this chick is so this chick is like so ugly. Like she's the worst person in class. She's actually like really good looking. It's just like she needs a makeover or whatever. And like you take her glasses off and you cut her hair, and all of a sudden she's hot. This show does not do that. The one thing I respect about it is they actually make her pretty mid. Like she is not like traditionally attractive. So I respect that. And they do sort of have like a an organic way to get the main character and the love interest together, because he's just genuinely a really good person and he's always looking out for other people. But other than that, it is a lot of just like flower work, and this chick like constantly misinterpreting what everyone else is saying. Like she constantly believes that like people are just gonna like blackmail her, or I should say, she is convinced that every time this guy is nice to her, he's just blackmailing her because, and he is like trying to get something out of her. Meanwhile, when people actually try to like use her and dump tasks off on her, she doesn't even realize it. So this girl is terribly confused. She's also incredibly shy, so she has a really hard time talking to people. It really is okay. A lot of boring shoujo stuff happens in this one, which, you know, I guess is to be expected. But it does actually make a better use of its it makes better use of its soundtrack than Honey Lemon Soda ever did. She may still be pretty, become decently pretty with a makeover, but definitely not a 9 or a 10. Yeah, fair enough. I guess that is true. Like if she put in some effort, she probably could look better. But when I say that, I'm mostly referring to the trope of like, oh well, I'm actually like I'm a 10 out of 10, but everyone says I'm ugly and therefore I'm ugly, and even though I'm very clearly very hot. So I respect them for at least going like and actually making the chick look pretty mid. So let's talk about the next one. Secrets of the Silent Witch. I actually thought this one was very good. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I felt like the animation was pretty well done. It's very comical and lighthearted with this first episode. You do have a lot of comedy based around our main character being incredibly like timid and not being able to talk to people. She has a really hard time with it. That's why she is the Silent Witch, because she mastered chantless in spell casting. And she's just overall really good at what she does. The side characters have their own level of intrigue to them. I find them somewhat appealing, so I like that. And the premise of this is basically that our main character, like I said, is a witch who is very quiet. She's one of the 7 sages, because not only is she powerful, she also mastered the ability to cast spells without chance, which is something that everyone except her has to do in order to cast magic. But she has now been tasked with protecting the second prince, because she basically fits the job perfectly. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes, but I did really like the first episode. I thought it was really well done. It's like Bocchi gave up her guitar and became an OP witch. Also, it looked great. It did look great. I thought a lot of like the shots on this, just like the like the angles on everything that were portrayed, the way it was all animated. It was a good looking show. I think that does help like massively contribute to my impression of this. But I'm fairly invested in the story. I like the characters. I like the concept of it. So I'm definitely going to be watching more of this one. It's like it kind of blew me away. Okay. Kaiju number 8. We're going to keep this one short, and Biggles can chew me out for this on Monday because they released the like the sideshow episode this week, and I didn't fucking care for it. Like I genuinely did not care for this. Okay. Okay. It will all like Kaiju number 8 will only be down here until it airs a proper episode. And once it does that, it'll go up to very good at least because I do genuinely like this show. But the OVA that it aired this week, didn't care for. Wasn't even interested in it. So that one's gonna be down there, and cry your heart out, Biggles. That's what we're doing. Okay. My Dress Up Darling. I have been waiting for this. I have been waiting for this. My Dress Up Darling returns fantastically. I love this series. Like this whole thing, just Kitagawa as a character and like her interactions with Gojo have always been fantastic. And their relationship, the dynamic between them, always great. I did not have a problem with the subs on this one, so I must have gotten mine from a different place. I do kind of feel like I would have liked to just watch it dubbed either way, because I feel like this episode was pretty fast, but I'm fairly certain that when I read this in the manga, I also felt the same way about it. Like these were some very short arcs that they covered. Like there wasn't really a whole lot to them. But it's a good, solid return for the series. I really like the intro to this one. Not gonna lie, I thought it was a pretty good one. The animation does feel like it was a little different from season 1, but I still like it. A lot of like the exaggeration around Marin's reactions to things and the way they portray Gojo's reactions, all of that makes for a really good experience. But this one did not disappoint. Had to read a dojin after the episode. I'm pretty sure you're not the only one, because a lot of people were making posts after the episode aired like would, absolute smash, would, yes, 10. I'm not generally into like the bunny girl thing, but I will say that Kitagawa in the bunny girl thing and in the bunny girl suit, 10 out of 10. Absolutely, like, who? I don't know what you mean who in regard to as like who was saying stuff like that, or who am I talking about? Because right now I'm kind of talking about Marin Kitagawa, the heroine of this story. Either way, Marin in a bunny suit is great. Love it. This whole episode was a fantastic return for the series. I'm really looking forward to more. This is one of the big things that I've been hoping would be good this season, and I have not been disappointed thus far. We have a few more to talk about here tonight, so let's talk about the shy hero and the assassin princess. Okay, we're going to put this in the interesting category. And here is why. Some of these chicks are really fucking hot. End of story. Okay. So the basic premise of this whole thing is you have a really like manly man muscle bro who is terribly shy of people. Like he cannot handle being around people. He is terrible at communicating and all that. However, he is ridiculously powerful, and that tempts 3 women to try to kill him. One is doing it because she's the daughter of the demon lord and she wants her freedom. Another is doing it because she is a professional assassin and someone is offering her 100 million in order to kill the guy. And the final girl, she's basically just a slut who wants to dominate this guy because she's a dommy mommy. And the first episode basically consists of them meeting this guy, getting saved by this guy, and all each individually having their moments where they come to realize, you know what? He's kind of hot and I kind of like him. I mean, the magic lolly basically gets saved by saved from her own summon. The assassin priestess has the whole thing where he jumps in to help her fight a monster to, stop a human trafficking deal. And of course, our Dami mommy ends up getting really turned on when he pins her to the bed. It was pretty funny. I'll give it that. I feel like it does have its good comedy moments, but I feel like that's going to be kind of like the only major thing that this one survives on. Outside of, Booba Goddess, yes. She got some massive fucking honkers there, dude. Some absolute units of badonkadonks there. I don't know if that's the right term, but whatever, that's what I used. So it's a decent enough show. Like, it's got some nice assets, fun concept, good animation. What more could you want out of it? Honestly. Fair enough. She got some amazing jiggle physics. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, we're going to move on to one of our last 2 for the night. Wataru-kun's garden is about to collapse. This one goes in the okay category. So it doesn't actually say garden. It just gives you a bunch of X's, like they cross that word out. But the discrepancy between, given what the show is about, and then the discrepancy between the length of the Japanese title and the length of the English title, it lines up with it being garden. So it's Wataru-kun's garden is about to collapse. So the premise of this whole show the premise of this whole show is basically our main character, Wataru, only really has his sister left in his family. And he has this crush on this chick at school. And he really likes gardening for whatever reason, only for his yandere childhood friend to show up again after she had trashed his garden 6 years ago. He's still pissed about that. And she's kind of crazy. The younger sister is kind of cute the way she behaves, but I don't really consider that like a reason to watch. The yandere childhood friend, she doesn't seem like total yandere yet, but she is kind of obsessive, especially aggressive as fuck. Like she's French kissing the main character in the first episode, like tackles him to the ground and starts like French kissing him. But outside of that, like, I don't know if I really care for this show. Like, I was interested in it because I thought it could have some like fun elements to it, but I'm not super into it, to be entirely honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of the relationship dynamics they have. I'm not a huge fan of like the whole like gardening sub theme, I guess you could call it. They have this whole thing about like how like our main character is still pissed at his childhood friend because she came in and smashed up his garden and then just fucking vanished for 6 years. I don't know. There's a lot of insane, retarded shit that goes on with this one that I'm just not a huge fan of. It doesn't really interest me. It kind of feels like we're getting a little bit of the a similar treatment to what we got from Can a Boy Girl Friendship Survive? Dandadan, the crowning jewel of the season for me. So I have seen the first 3 episodes of this series already. So it's still gonna be a couple of weeks before I'm really able to see anything new. But I will start talking a little bit about what I've seen. I have said previously that I think this arc was done much better than it actually was in the manga. It was an improvement upon what they did. I thought it was good back then. I'm very satisfied with a lot of the directing choices. I know not a lot of people Oh, please no. What are we talking about? If you're talking about it gives me a similar vibe to Can a Boy Girl Friendship Survive? Yeah, I would feel the same way, honestly. But insofar as Dandadan goes, like I'm really happy with how this one has gone. I think that this show has done a really good job of adapting the manga. Personally, one of my favorites out there. I really like. If you guys don't care for it, so be it. But I love this show. I love this manga. I feel like some of it may have suffered from some overhype. I feel like a lot of people did talk it up to be something much greater than what it was. But I still think that it is fantastic. And I really won't comment too terribly much on what happens in the episodes. It becoming like boy-girl friendship, yeah. I really I hope it doesn't. I hope I get some fun out of it, but I don't know. I feel like it gives me very similar vibes. But that does effectively conclude how I feel about this season's anime so far. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch all of the ones that I wanted to check out. Some are still yet to debut. So I was going to check out Betrothed to My Sister's Ex and Scooped Up by an S-Rank Adventurer. But I didn't end up having the time to do that. And there will probably be some more that come out tomorrow that I will cover as well. I'm not going to check out With You in the Rain. I'm just not interested in it. And I'm actually going to try and I'm going to try and catch up on the Bunny Girl series as well, because a lot of people do say that that is good, and I have at least some level of interest in it, and I should be able to blitz that out here pretty easily and catch all the way up on that and start watching that this season and add that to the list. Did you see the post about the dude who said, "Why can't these people grape this girl? Put me in, coach. I'll get it done." Yeah, that was a pretty fucked one. That was pretty fucked, to be entirely honest. There was no reason for it, but some people just don't understand proper behavior, I guess. All right. So with that said, we're going to screenshot this and make sure everyone knows that this is how we feel about the anime. And we're going to wind down for tonight. So I'm going to try and get back to, like, I've been trying to get back to my usual schedule of posting videos. I actually managed to put my 2 out this week. We're still going to be doing the Crimson News Network every week, Wednesday, 6:30. Other things, basically, where you can find me generally, my schedule is always the same. Monday, I will post a video. I will also be on the Biggles Breakdown on Mondays. Wednesday, like I said, Crimson News Network, 6:30 CST. Friday, I try to post a video every week. Sometimes it goes a little better than planned. Sometimes it doesn't. And then Saturday, of course, I will be doing this every Saturday. Although I don't know, I may need to take a break at some point just to, like, have a mental day off. And just slack at some point, because I do tend to feel like I run myself at like 110% sometimes to keep up with absolutely everything I'm doing. It's not just the YouTube stuff. There's a bunch of other things that I do. Like, if it was just YouTube, I probably wouldn't need that. That's like a fucking Hassan thing to say, but I digress. Anyway, I hope you'll stay tuned for all that stuff. Shout out to all the mods. I mean, Biggles, a lot of you probably already know, like, his channel. The Questioners was here. He has a channel where he posts about pop culture stuff as well. I appreciate you guys all being around here. Marcel, Biggles, Muffler Tape. Even at one point, Ronnie was here, even just if he just wanted to, insult people. I appreciate everyone who shows up. Either way, it is America's weekend is winding down. Hope you have a good one if you're here in the States. Yeehaw. If you're not, well, yeehaw anyway. Have a good weekend. Hope you all stay well, stay hydrated, stay healthy, all that kind of stuff. Time to play